Bloody Vegans the other day.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Chatting with Jim, he's great.
Jim, that's it. Couldn't remember his name. Yeah, I was on his podcast recently and I met him at Vegfest. He's lovely, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I saw you on actually. I was having a look on their
Yeah,
website. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he
he's.
is really good. He's got such a great voice for podcasts.
I know, and he's so chilled. He just
Yeah.
makes you feel calm, whereas I'm quite like hyper. So yeah, I love Jim. Tom Pickering, you're a writer and filmmaker, and your recent film "I Could Never Go Vegan" was came out last year. Is that right?
No, so we launched the trailer on World Vegan Day, which was the 1st of
Ah,
November. And then we were intending on releasing it really a couple of months after that. But we, as is nearly always the case with these things, we got slightly delayed in that we went back to reshoot a couple of bits and also pick up some stuff that we hadn't got that kind of came basically to us and we're like, oh, that'd be amazing to include. We should include this. So we kept doing that and we found we'd gone on a bit of a rabbit hole in that, we had to stop at some point because we could just keep filming forever if not.
yeah.
And then actually the last 4 months we've pretty much had the film completely finished, but we'd been going back and forth with a bit of a legal issue. Nothing huge, but basically we had to get certain things signed off to then get insurance, and without that we could never land it on a big platform, so it was just going through all the hoops that you have to jump through to sort that, which unless you're kind of involved in that process, most people have no idea that that's even a thing.
Yeah.
Which we didn't, to be honest. But I am really pleased to say that quite literally this week we've just wrapped up on all of that, and we're basically in a really good place now to push forward and get the film released. So honestly, I think in the next month or two we're going to be out there on a big platform.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because I watched the trailer and there's a lot of people in there that we've had on the podcast, including Dr. Shireen Kassam, who's the co-founder of Plant-Based Health Professionals. And she states that 1 in 5 people die because of an unhealthy diet, which is, it's just pretty shocking this day and age, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Do you know the stats pretty much more like 1 in 4 now as well? That's how,
Really?
yeah, that's how quickly these stats almost become outdated. It's quite interesting because you know how sometimes a vegan film will come out and then there'll be someone a month or two later who will be like, I've debunked this entire film. I've done everything you said is now inaccurate, and you kind of understand why that sometimes happens because occasionally it's not that it isn't. Isn't accurate at the time. It's just that the information changes that quickly, and we're all so unhealthy that the stats are only getting worse.
So depressing.
And
And yeah, I mean that doesn't even just it doesn't just apply to people who eat meat and dairy, does it? Us vegans can sometimes fall off the wagon and just start living on vegan pizzas and things like that. So your new campaign, Running on Plants, which I've seen all over social media and really excited about it because I too am a runner and I've kind of got back into it recently and I'm really enjoying it. It's all about encouraging people to kind of, eat a plant-based diet and go running and kind of measure their improvement over the course of the month. Is that right?
yeah, really, it's ultimately we're trying to encourage people to adopt a healthy approach to life with a healthy diet that is predominantly whole food plant based, and taking up running is the general idea. However, we're trying to be really inclusive in that if you can't run for whatever reason, if maybe you have a previous injury or there's a medical condition or whatever it might be, just trying to move your body in any way that you're able to. There's so much evidence to suggest that that's great for us as humans to do. And so what the actual campaign is sort of pushing is that people log a 5K at the start of the month, and that really sets a benchmark time so they know where they're at. They go through the month of June, basically following a training plan that we've put together. So we worked with a coach called Jasper McDowell who's put 3 different versions of this plan together, so you can adapt it to your level. Recipes, there's loads of nutritional information because we've partnered with Plant-Based Health Professionals and with Switch for Good, and also more recently with nutritionfacts.org over in America. So some really great organisations who absolutely know their stuff, and you can believe what they're saying, and an abundance of other support, and there's a real community behind it all. And so you go through the month, and the idea is then you log your second 5K at the end of the month and celebrate this new speedy time that you've got. And the reason why I like the fact that you log a 5Ks because it kind of makes it tangible. So you can pretty much, it's not like just saying, oh, I feel better. There's not really any way to measure that other than, maybe measure your weight or some other health markers.
Yeah.
But with this, you can actually say, I'm 5 minutes quicker. I can't believe it. How have I done this?
You're a lifelong runner, is that right? I think I read.
Yeah, so I started running 8 years old competitively.
Wow.
I started, I joined Hull City Athletics Club, so I was from a small town near Hull, and they were my closest club that I could join. They were the only place that had an athletics track, so we had to drive like 45 minutes just to go and run on a track, which shouldn't stop you, to be fair, because you can just go run anywhere. That's the beauty of running.
Yeah.
But I had to persuade them to let me join a year early because I was too young. But my older brother and my dad ran, and I was like, I really want to run. Can you let me join, please? And I think they just got fed up of me asking.
Oh, that's so cute. Are you a vegan runner as well? A member of Vegan Runners?
I am indeed, yeah. I think I've been a member of them since 2017, something like that. So yeah, I've won the vest many times.
Yeah. I'm a newbie, so I've got my vest about a month ago now, and I'm sort of just starting to venture out. I did my first park run wearing it, and I got a PB because I think when you're wearing it, you feel really like you're representing not just the vegan runners, but vegans as a whole, don't you?
Yeah.
So you're like, I need to be extra fit and impress everybody so they go vegan.
And I love it when if I do a park run and like I win it and I'm wearing the vest, because I'm like, I'm the first one in and I'm really advertising vegan runners here.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It definitely makes you more conscious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Although it shouldn't really be about that, it should just be about going out and enjoying yourself and doing something that's good for you. But you can't help but get a little bit competitive, can you, when you've got the vest on?
Definitely. I don't think there's any danger of me winning park run though. Coming first ever. But
well, you said you got a PB. What's your time?
It's like, I think it was like 28, 29 minutes. So
that's a great time.
Wow, I was nowhere near these 15-minute guys who are sort of striding past me and lapping me. But
yeah, there's some really fast people. Have you signed up then for the campaign?
Running on plants?
Yes.
I have, yes. So we're getting involved. We're gonna Molly's my co-host. She was supposed to be doing a challenge with me actually earlier this year, but she's kind of dipped out of the running a little bit. She kind of kept getting shin splints, but no, I'll definitely be doing it. So you're working with some really inspirational people, aren't you, on this? So there's an 85-year-old ultra athlete, Paul Yude. Tell us about him.
Yeah, Paul's amazing. I stumbled across him about a year and a half ago because I saw so his story is incredible. He's 85, as you say. He didn't go vegan till his early 60s, which I think is great in itself because it reminds us we're never too old to do anything. And his arthritis just effectively disappeared overnight. It was such a transformation. And then if you see him now, I mean, he's walking around 60 kilometres every week at the moment. So he's getting in some good mileage. But he didn't actually take up running until lockdown, so until COVID happened.
Oh my God!
And he measured out a track in his garden, and he just used to do laps in his garden.
Oh, that's so cute! Bless him. That's amazing.
I know, he's incredible, and he has all these crazy goals. So he wants to do 1 million press ups, and he's done about 650,000 so far. He wants to do 100 ultras before he's 100. And I think so far he's done about 8 or 9. And the reason I initially got in touch with him was because we were obviously shooting I Could Never Go Vegan. And there was a big athlete section in the film where we highlight athletes from all disciplines, different ages, different backgrounds, because we just want to showcase the diversity involved in it all as well. And I just said to Paul, have you got anything coming up? And he was doing this 50k ultra, so I was like, oh, can I join you for it? And we just filmed it on camera. So that's in the documentary. But ever since then, we've just been good friends, and because I'm constantly inspired by him. And as soon as we were launching Running on Plants, I just said, Paul, can you be an ambassador for this? Because everybody loves your story. I love your story. And so he's out doing the rounds promoting it at the moment. He's on TV on Thursday, actually, on ITV. So I sent him some T-shirts to wear.
Yes, what an ambassador for your campaign, but also for veganism. I mean, there's not many people doing things like that at 80, well, at any age, to be honest, let alone 85.
No, I mean, when I did the 50k ultra with him, I was thinking, do you know, there were people who were half his age and younger that couldn't do this.
Yeah.
No, it's the fact that he had a smile on his face the entire time. He's so positive. I really learned a lot from Paul, just sharing that experience with him.
Yeah.
And at the end, he was still absolutely beaming, grinning ear to ear. And yeah, I just thought, oh, this is exactly how I want to go through life, is just like trying to be like this man.
What's his secret? Well, what's he eating?
Well, he's quite consistent with whole foods, so he doesn't have that. I know just from spending time with him as well, he doesn't have that much sort of vegan junk food. He will occasionally, but I know he's basically for the last 20 odd years he's been pretty consistent with trying to eat as whole food as possible, or taking that approach, which I think that's basically what we're trying to suggest with the campaign as well. Is if you want to feel the health benefits, you will thrive much more if you kind of stick to that whole food approach, rather than. It's not to say that the junk food isn't delicious, because it is, and I'm glad it exists. But I mean, sometimes I'll be guilty of just like relying on that too much, and so I'm also trying to practice what I preach with, that it's definitely feel the benefits by having the whole foods. Yeah,
it's so easy to kind of go down that road, isn't it? And just like, oh, sod it, I'm just going to stick a vegan pizza on. And then before you know it, you've sort of every night you're like, actually, I've
eaten 7 pizzas.
Yeah, like you say, it's great to have, but sometimes it's like, I wish it wasn't there, really.
Yeah, it's good for those transitioning though, isn't it? If you're wanting to tuck into a burger dish, or your favourite burger or sausage, I don't know, and it's like, I just need something to fill that gap, and it's like, well, they're so good now that it is perfect for that, but you really can fall into a trap of having too many. Definitely.
I think it alienates us less as well, because you can just, for example, I've got a 17-year-old daughter, and, I'd imagine before...
You don't look old enough, Holly.
Thank you. I think there's maybe like a filter on this video or something. I'm definitely feeling old at the moment. She's nearly 17 actually, and she started to sort of get a social life, and she's going to a barbecue this weekend, and I think before sort of the arrival of these things like vegan burgers and everything else, then you would be like, perhaps taking something a bit odd along, wouldn't you? Like a homemade TVP patty or something, and people being like, why have you got your little salad in your lunchbox? So I think now at least it's more sort of mainstream and acceptable.
Yeah, I often say to people, because I was raised vegetarian, I remember like growing up in the 80s and 90s, being a vegetarian was like way harder than being vegan now. And so it's interesting to make those comparisons, because it's so easy now. Like, I actually can't really believe that some people think it's too hard still. That's something we address in the doc, because people do still say it. But yeah, we're definitely living in a good time to be vegan.
Yeah. So you've never eaten meat in your life?
Never even tried it.
No. And was that because your parents were like vegetarians?
Yeah, so my parents pretty much went veggie right when they had me, I think. And we were just, there was no doubt in their mind that that's how I was getting raised. So and my dad, I think my dad initially either did it. It's kind of a combination of for welfare reasons, but also for health reasons, because he was a pretty serious runner at the time, or somewhat serious runner, and was really into like trying to find what he could do to benefit as well from an athletic point of view. So to some extent, I always think it's interesting, because as a kid, I always used to think he was quite weird, my dad, because he'd always be talking about all these. Oh, you want to have some pumpkin seeds? And I'd be like, what the heck are pumpkin seeds?
I just want a bag of Monster Munch. Monster Munch.
If like, grind these up, we'll put these on your porridge in the morning. I was like, why can't I have cereal? All my friends have cereal. All these things that I look back now and I'm like, I'm so glad about all of it. But at the time, so I sometimes remind myself of that if ever I'm starting to sound like what my dad probably sounded like to me.
I know.
But yeah, I think it probably, when I reflect on it now, I think it benefited me, because I ran competitively as a kid, and I won a northern medal at the cross country champs and stuff. So I never did anything really huge, but I had some reasonable achievements, and I think it was probably because I had a pretty good upbringing in terms of nutrition.
Yeah. What is it about a plant-based diet then that can help us with our, running, athletic performance, general fitness?
Well, from my perspective, all my fastest times were since I've been vegan. Like all the PBs I have, like even though I'm obviously getting older and older, that's how aging works. I still think I've not actually reached my athletic potential, and I reckon that's because I seem to recover much quicker, and I think that's due to the lack of inflammation in my body. I sleep better, so I always feel much more refreshed in the morning, especially if I'm eating really healthy and if I'm training. I notice I sleep so much better. I was actually thinking about that today compared to even if I just miss a few days training and I grab some junk meals, it makes such a difference. And I don't think you really realise that until you've gone through that process. And I just think I can push myself harder. But I think mainly that's because I recover quicker. And that's the thing, like you don't really have those days where you're just aching, and that can go on for 2 or 3 days. And that's my experience of it. And ultimately, if that means you can train harder and faster, you are going to improve. And that's what I've found.
And it's something I've sort of read about a lot, and talked to people a lot over the years on the podcast, is the fact that because your body's not kind of like having to process all this heavy meat, then you're just you feel kind of lighter, don't you? And it's sort of, you've got more energy because your body's not dealing with that big steak or load of chicken or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's exactly it. You have more energy. You really do. Like, you can get to the end of the day as well, and like I use a film shoot as an example because I work on a lot of film shoots, and sometimes you have ridiculously long days. Like, you're talking 14-hour days.
Yeah.
You get to the end, and I'll still have like a big drive home or something, and all the crew around me they're falling asleep, and it's not that I wouldn't be tired, but I'm just like, I'm still good to go. I could go for a run now if I wanted to.
Brilliant. What about the let's just touch on the old subject of protein, because it's still a big thing, isn't it? And I've got friends who are not vegan, but they're eating mainly plant-based diets. They sort of might have, they might go out for dinner and have fish or seafood or something, but mainly, plant-based. But they still seem to be worried about the whole protein thing. Just talk to me about protein, Tom.
Yeah, it blows my mind, does that? Like, it's 2023 and people still worry about protein on a vegan diet. Like, I mean, there are occasions where I will have one meal and I will pretty much hit my protein requirements for the day, but I eat really big portions. So I like to cook big one-pot meals, and I'll throw everything in there. So loads of veggies, but also, it's not uncommon for me to throw chickpeas, black beans, butter beans, and tofu all in the same pot. So you can imagine how much protein is in that.
Yeah.
And because I like to cook in bulk because it works with my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So say if I cooked a big curry like that, I'll have one portion. Maybe I'll have make a couple of wraps, or I'll have some grain with it, which is even more protein. Then before I know it, I've probably had like 40 grams of protein in one meal. Like, and that's literally one meal. That's not including the other 2 that I will have, and maybe a snack or 2 if I wanted it, if I had a big day. So, I've never had a day where I've thought, I'm a bit low on protein.
Yeah.
So, in fact, because if you're eating whole foods in particular, because you're having such big meals, or you can eat big portions because the food's so nutrient dense but low in calories, you will easily hit your protein requirements. So the main thing I say to people is just eat enough and make sure it's a nice variety on your plate, and you don't need to worry about it. Everything will fall into place.
Yeah, I love the fact you can have massive portions. It's like it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Do you do the whole protein shake thing, or not really?
No, I will occasionally. So it depends. I mean, I do a lot of weight training as well. I've cut back at the moment because I'm trying to actually get as light as I can for the campaign because I want to run a 5k PB. But I try and mix my training with running and weight training, and I much more prefer the running, but I like the benefits of weight training, really, is the only reason I do it. And so if I am wanting to maybe put on a bit of size, I will maybe have a protein shake immediately after a weight session, but I'll never have it just within a normal day. I'll only ever have it if I've trained weights, and that's it. Whereas I know there are some people who will literally, I have a protein shake every single day because I need it. I've never found that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I never quite know. I'm like, oh, am I... Because I sort of do the intermittent fasting as well. So, I sort of... I mean, I don't do anything, at your level, but I do like a HIIT class on a Monday morning. And then, this morning I went running. And I'm always like, well, I don't want to eat till lunchtime, but then should I have a protein shake? Should I have a smoothie? I don't know. It's sometimes you just overthink it all, don't you? I think sometimes you just need to listen to your body and think, what do I actually want and need right now?
Yeah, it's so easy to do though, I think. So, and I think a lot of people, especially if people are just coming into this, they probably are going to be thinking about all these things. And there's nothing wrong if they want to track their macros and basically everything they're taking in. But I've been doing it long enough now, I think, where I just kind of know what works for my body. But it is important to understand that everybody has a different approach and everybody's bodies are different. So what works for me might not necessarily work for the next person. But yeah, I think you just get a feel for these things. And as you say, listening to your body, like your body will tell you if it's crying out for food or if you've had enough. And as I said before, because I have big portions, I tend to feel quite full after each meal, which is exactly what I love, because I don't like going through the day feeling hungry.
No. What is, you mentioned you want to get a PB, for, during your campaign. What is your PB at the moment then for a 5K?
So at the moment it's 18:38. I would really like to run 17 minutes. So even if it's 17:59, I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not quite at the 15-minute mark, but...
No, but that's still brilliant. How does it get tracked then? So the website's running on plants.org. Does it all sort of, everything kind of go through there? You kind of sign up and then you track, you sort of record your first 5K at the start of June.
Yeah, so there's two ways to do it, really. So you would sign up to take part in the challenge on runningplants.org. Then you can either... It depends if you want to do it. Most people these days have a watch that would track their distance, like a Garmin watch, and they'd link it to Strava, or you can just link your phone directly to Strava. That's how I typically do it, because then I can plan any route. I don't have to pick a particular one. But if you wanted to just go and do your local park run, so it's measured out to 5K, and you wanted just to use a little cheap digital watch, that's absolutely fine. And then you can sort of monitor it in the old school fashion. But I like to have something that I can kind of look back on, which is why I use Strava. And it's free to use Strava as well, so it doesn't cost anything. But it just means I can kind of reflect on the month, and I can go and look at my training and look what's maybe working well or what's not working. But that's how I would, if you can do that, that's how I'd recommend doing it, because then you can also share it and, get other people involved, get your friends involved. You feel like you're part of a community.
Yeah, I like Strava. I've got it recently. I used to think it was sort of, like my friend would always post her runs on Facebook and I'd be like, oh, it's just showing off. But actually, I really like it now because, like you say, you can track your progress and you can sort of follow people. So can we follow you on Strava?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we can track you down and
see
what you're up to.
Go and look at the training I'm doing. At the moment, I'm trying to do loads of hill stuff. So I live in Sheffield and there's hills everywhere. So I learned a while ago that you embrace it. Otherwise, you're not going to improve. So I just do hills every day.
Yeah. Would you say that's one of the key things to improving your time? Sort of that, hill training, strength, like you talked about, doing weights, things like that to sort of support the running.
Yeah, I think with strength training, if I'm being completely honest, I think the type of weights training I do probably doesn't help my running that much, because I'm kind of doing it because, as I mentioned before, like I like the outcome of weights in terms of like just from a physiological point of view.
Yeah.
If I was going to do it to really help my running, it would be how it is in the training plan, where it's really high intensity but light in terms of what you're lifting. So it's more just to help build your core strength and just to give you enough that it's where it will aid your running performance. But hills, definitely. Like I know some people that won't enter a race if it's got hills in it. Like they look just only for flat races, and I'm just like, I can't believe you would do that. It's not worth the effort, for one. And I think you'll only improve as a runner if you just attack the hills and just learn to accept that it's only going to help me. It's a part of basically most running, especially if you run on the trails and stuff, which I find way more exciting than road running. And
Yeah.
I've got to the point now where I actually get a bit bored if I'm running on the flat for too long. Like, I look for hills. I'm like, I need a hill.
Yeah. I used to live in Bristol, and we used to do a lot of hill training in my running club because it is really hilly. But where I am now in Dorset is, well, there's hilly bits, but where I live specifically, it's quite flat. But what I like is running along by the sea, because it kind of takes my mind off the pain of running sometimes. Like I want to start. Oh, look, that's a nice view.
Yeah, that's great though, because that works for you then. I think
Yeah.
that's what people need to find, is like the type of running that works for them. So, like, if I use my dad as an example, my dad likes sprinting, which I've always found quite boring. Like, I enjoy watching it, but I've never enjoyed doing sprinting because it's just over so quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas I love trail running because I just love the feeling of being out in nature, and it just feels, that kind of epitomises freedom to me. And I just get completely lost. I don't run with music. I actually don't run with people either. I just like to not think, well, maybe be lost with my own thoughts perhaps.
Yeah.
So, but other people I know love running in big groups, and it's just finding what works for you.
Definitely. Well, I'm really excited to take part in the challenge, and I hope lots of our listeners will sign up on runningonplants.org and check out you're on Instagram and everything else, aren't you, and YouTube. So
We are indeed, yeah. Running on Plants 1 on Instagram, and obviously runningonplants.org is the website, and our YouTube is embedded into that, so you can find us through there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Tom. It's been lovely to chat to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh.